Hello beautiful souls. Today we'll be making homemade air dry clay, and this one is different than the cold porcelain clay. There's going to be an ingredient that's going to be changed. This is not my original formula, however I am going to tweak the formula. This came from a channel called Yobanka Art, and I will link that in the description box below. I will actually link the original video to making the homemade clay. And the reason why I'm doing this is because hers is in Spanish, and of course everybody doesn't speak Spanish, so I'm going to do it in English, but I am going to tweak the formula a little bit. Okay, you will need a container to mix your ingredients. This is just a plastic food container. Your measuring cups and measuring spoons. You will also need I'm going to use lotion. This is one of the ingredients that I am tweaking. She used some kind of liquid soap. It was like a white, like a pearlish creamy liquid soap. I don't know if it was a shampoo or hand soap, I don't remember. You're gonna need one that's preferably a little bit thick, you know, not too watery or anything like that. So this is one of the ingredients that I am tweaking. You're also going to need white Carpenters glue, not regular school glue or Elmer's glue or any of those other glues, not even your craft glue. And the reason why is because this particular formula, Carpenters glue, any Carpenters glue, it doesn't have to be this brand, but this is the brand I am using. Okay, however, the reason why Carpenter's glue is the best glue to make any kind of air dry clay is because it has resin in it, which makes it more elasticity and makes it much more stronger. That's probably why they use it for woodworking. All right, you're also going to use rice flour. Now in cold porcelain air dry clay formula, they use cornstarch, and I still will be using a little bit of that. Not, you know, that's not going to be the main ingredient, but rice flour is the alternative to the cornstarch. And this formula, the reason why I want to do this formula, this air dry clay as opposed to the cold porcelain clay, is because when Yobanka explained why this is much better than the cold porcelain clay, and when I tried it myself, she was actually right. Cold porcelain, once you put it in your mold, it loses a little bit of the shape of the mold. You still have it, but it's not as pronounced as this one is, or even the store-bought air dry clay, or even the polymer clay, where it keeps its it keeps all the details of the mold. So this is why she came up with this formula, and I'm glad she did. So the credit goes to her, but I am tweaking it a little bit. All right, so this is optional, but I do highly recommend it. I will be adding acrylic paint to my mixture. She didn't do that, and the reason why I will be adding acrylic paint to my mixture is because if you don't, it will dry like this. It's kind of like transparent a little bit. It will dry like this. I wanted to show you this before I actually painted it, but I ended up painting it with white acrylic paint, and look how pretty. You can still see the details on that. And this is actually this air dry clay that we'll be making today. But if you add acrylic paint, it doesn't matter which color you add, and you don't have to add a lot. It will come out like this instead. Okay, and this is a cream color that I use. I will be using white today. I've also added it to, I've also added pink to that air dry clay. Okay, and this is trial and error. I'm still learning how to make the clay, and the way she made it was a little bit too dry for me, and when I did it the way she made it, the pieces crack a little bit as it dries, as you can see here. I mean, they're still workable because this will be glued down, you know, on a project, so you won't see it. The front didn't crack, only the back did. This one did, though, a little bit. See, it cracked right here, and it has quite a bit of cracks in the back. But I love this. I love the smoothness of this clay. It is so smooth. It's actually smoother than the air dry clay that I normally use, which is the Polyform. Let me show you that. Which is this clay here, the Model Air, Polyform Model Air. It's actually smoother than this clay. I love, love, love the texture of this homemade clay. And the clay itself feels a little bit gritty, but it doesn't dry like that, which I was surprised. I was really surprised. But oh my goodness, this clay is so pretty, and it's so smooth, and it has a beautiful matte finish. It is beautiful. I love it. So here's another example. This was done with the white. I added the white acrylic paint to the mixture, and this one was a lot smoother because I made the texture a little bit different where it wasn't too dry when I was adding the ingredients. Okay, so these are the samples of when you don't add any kind of acrylic paint. Now we're gonna get started. I want to make sure that was it. I did add some saran wrap, the cling wrap, on the bottom of my surface, and I'm using this 12 by 12 tile. So, because it's going to get a little bit messy. So the way she did it using a scale, and that's how she weighed her ingredients. So what I've done is I used her measurement, her scaling measurements, if that makes sense, and I converted it into the cups and the teaspoons and tablespoons. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do, and I wrote it down so I won't forget, and I always have it, so when I want to make more, I have the ingredients. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add 1 cup plus a 1/4 cup rice flour. Okay, so we're gonna put an entire cup. Oopsie. Okay, this needs more. So that's about 1 cup, and then a 1/4 cup. Make sure your cups don't have no dust in it like mine does. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this whole entire thing in here, and you get about 3 batches out of 1 bag. Okay, that's a 1/4 cup. I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to add the Carpenters glue last. So I am going to add the acrylic paint. I'm going to add a little bit of baby oil in here, because that keeps the acrylic paint and the lotion from sticking here, from sticking to it, and you see most of the acrylic paint and the lotion will come out. So I'm gonna add 1. If it comes out, it comes out a lot, like it doesn't really stick. 2. I think I probably could have added just the 1, but I'm gonna add the 2. I'm also gonna add the lotion. See how a lot of it comes out? Now I'm going to add the Carpenters glue. So we're gonna add 2, and I'm also gonna add the baby oil in here, because you will see how much we're gonna, you know, I like to utilize, if it's a 1/4 cup, I want to make sure it's in its entirety, and sometimes it'll stick, you know, to the object that you're pouring it in, and you're not gonna get all of the glue. With this, you get just about 98% of the glue out. Okay, so we're gonna do 2 of these in the Carpenters glue. Okay, I'm doing it off camera because I need to grip this properly. Okay, so that took 1/4 cup. As you can see here, most of the glue is in, it's in the mixture here and not stuck to the sides of this measuring cup. And these are my crafting measuring cups. I don't use this for food at all. Okay, there's the other 1/4 cup. I'm gonna close the bottle. We're also gonna need 2 tablespoons of the Carpenters glue. 2 extra tablespoons. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that like that. Again, I'm gonna add some more of this in there. So I'm gonna pour more glue to the tablespoon. Okay, so that's 1. Look, all of it came out. All of it came out. And of course, it's just a matter of rinsing this out with soap and water because of the baby oil. All of it came right out. Okay? All right. So that's pretty much it for the ingredients. I will wash this out later. And with this mixture, you can use it right away. You don't have to wait 24 hours like the cold porcelain glue. I mean glue. The cold porcelain mixture or recipe. And this doesn't require any cooking at all. The cold porcelain recipe does. Alright, so now I'm just going to take this spatula, the silicone spatula that I bought in the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to use, I'm going to use the smaller end. And you just mix up all of the ingredients. And you will be using your hands, of course. Okay, at this point, I will be mixing with my hands. And I'm actually going to saturate my hands with lotion. And as you can see, it's quite a bit here. You get quite a bit. So in the event I had put pink acrylic paint, this mixture would have been pink. If I had put like a light blue or light turquoise, it would have been that. So this almost feels like I'm making bread or tortitas. Tortitas, I love tortitas to put in soup. Okay, so here is your lovely, lovely air dry homemade clay, which is where I tweaked it a bit. I am going to keep kneading here. And this feels really good. It really does. It will stop sticking to your fingers after a while, so don't worry about that. But if you feel like it's still sticking to your fingers after a while, you can add cornstarch. Look at that. I love the consistency of that. I really do. And I love how Yovanka, when she described you know, when the air dry porcelain clay, the one that's used with cornstarch and you have to cook, she said that after a while it faints. In other words, and then she went, oh, like she fainted. I love that she did that. Anyway, it does lose. Like if this was the air dry porcelain clay, you would still see the details, but it wouldn't be as pronounced as that. It will lose a little bit of its form. And then, of course, you would wrap this in saran wrap and put it in an airtight container if you're not going to use it right away. But this is really meant to use, you know, when you make it, as soon as you make it. But I've left mine for maybe about a week or so, and it was still okay, but I can tell that it was getting, you know, dried. So it's starting to stick a little bit less to me. And it didn't stick to the surface. So, and again, you would add a little some cornstarch in here, and then you would add your piece in there. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to be using this mold to test the clay out. I'm going to add some cornstarch. This is just a scruffy paintbrush. That's what it's called, a scruffy. Okay, I'm going to saturate that really well. Take out the excess. So here is the homemade air dry clay. When you put it in the plastic, it's going to feel even more moist. It's going to feel a little bit more wet and more moist. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip a little bit of this into cornstarch. So you don't want it like too wet or too moist. I'll do a little bit more. And then you're going to have a difficult time taking it out of the mold because it's going to stick to it, even if you put the cornstarch on there. I'll do a little bit more. So I did it 3 times. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, that feels much better. It's not as moist, but it's not as dry either. So let me just take a little bit of that and spread it in here. I will either do this or take my rolling pin that I use for clay, and I'll just roll it on the top to smooth it out. I think that's pretty much it. So this is what I mean. I will do this, or I will do this. Either or is fine. If you have clay that, you know, that overlapped the edges, that's okay, because when it dries you can sand it off. You can smooth it out by sanding it off. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the freezer. Okay, so now I took this out the freezer. And there it is. And I picked up all those beautiful details. And this is the back. Okay. And it's stiff now because it's a little, you know, because it's been in the freezer. Look, it came out with no problem. So this mixture is a little bit moist. And I prefer it like this because when I first did it, I did it the way Yobanka did it, and it was a little bit too dry, and it was real hard for me to knead with my hands. It was actually hurting my hands. So I rather have it soft and then add the cornstarch, you know, in individual pieces as I mold the clay into the mold, as I press the clay into the mold. So I rather do it like that than for it to be hurting my hands and for it to be a little bit too dry. And this will help with less cracking as well. So that is the tip. If you're watching this video first, I do have a part 1 and a part 2 and tips for and how to make your own homemade mold, and you know, little tips and tricks on the mold itself. Okay, even if it's a ready-made store-bought mold, I have tips and tricks for that as well. So go ahead and watch those other videos, and then You can make your homemade clay once you make your homemade molds and start making beautiful, beautiful pieces for your projects. I think that was it. So everything will be linked in the description box below, including the ingredients and the measurements. I will link all of that in the description box below. So you don't have to rewatch the video. You can always go into the description box and look up the ingredients and the measurements. Okay, so with that being said, all is well. Let's share, be fair, be filled with love, and love one another. Take good care, everybody.